Should you buy a property in your own name, a company, or a trust? How should you structure your property portfolio? Hi, I am Jaco Grobbelaar, the founder and managing director of Prosperity Enterprises. In property investment, everything is about consistency. You want to think about how you are going to build your property portfolio over the next couple of decades. So you want to make sure that you have the right structure in place to build your property on. You want to run your property portfolio like a business. Now, what does that mean? That means this property portfolio should have its own bank account, it should be in an entity of its own, and it should have its own financial statements. Structuring is the foundation of property investment, so you want to make sure that you are building your property portfolio on a strong foundation. You want to make sure that when you want to build a skyscraper, that the foundation is strong enough. So with property investment, be sure that you've got the right structures, the right entities in place in which you can acquire property. So what is the correct structuring when it comes to property investment? When you buy property, you want to buy your property in a company, but very important is that that company is not owned by you, but that company is owned by a holdings trust. So you want to make sure that all your properties are owned in a company, but that a holdings trust is the shareholder of that property company. The way that you should not own property is in your own name, or alternatively in a company, but where you are the shareholder of that company. Why is that? There's 4 reasons why structuring is so important and why you need to have the correct structuring in place. The first one is to build a bigger property portfolio. When you have the right structure in place, it is possible for you to build a significantly bigger property portfolio than what you would be able to build if you are buying property in your own name. On a daily basis, I sit with clients that have reached a ceiling with 2 or 3 properties where they cannot expand their property portfolio because of exposure in their capacity. When you build your property portfolio within entities, it enables you to build a significantly bigger property portfolio. The second reason is tax benefits. When you have your holdings trust and your property company in place and your property company acquiring your properties, you are paying significantly less tax. And the reason for that is because firstly, all your income and expenses are properly recorded. Secondly, you have a much lower tax rate in a company than in any other entity or in your personal capacity. And then thirdly, if you ever do sell your company, you've got the conduit principle in the trust where you can distribute those gains to beneficiaries and pay significantly less tax. Thirdly, you have asset protection. When you have a holdings trust, own all of your investments, owning all of your shares in your property companies, those assets, those investments, those property companies, and thus the properties they're in, is not yours anymore. So if anything happens to you financially, those assets are protected. Creditors can't reach it so easily. And then the fourth benefit of structuring is, of course, for the estate planning benefits that it offers. Dying is very expensive. So when you have a lot of assets in your name, your estate is going to pay estate duties, capital gains tax, executive fees, and transfer fees. When you have structured your property portfolio within the right structure, none of those assets will reflect as assets in your name one day when you pass away, which means that there's so much more legacy that you can leave to your beneficiaries. So what about if you want to buy property with somebody else? How would the structure look like for a joint venture? What you would have is you would have a property company that acquires the property, and then you would have your holdings trust hold your shares in the property company, and your partner holdings trust holding his or her share in the property company, and the property company would still own 100% of the shareholding. When it comes to your essential trust structuring of what you need to have in place, you need to have at least a family trust as well as a holdings trust in place. Now, why do you need 2 trusts? The reason why you need 2 trusts is because your family trust serves a very important and very unique purpose. Your family trust is for your personal assets, all of your assets that have no debt on it, and secondly, It is for all the money to move through. It is where we make donations to and where we create loan accounts from. Any money that you have, that you want to push into your property portfolio, any funds that you want to make available for your property portfolio, you would donate as much as possible to your family trust, and your family trust will then lend to your holdings trust and your property company so that you can build your property portfolio. So the family trust serves a very, very important function for three reasons. Firstly is for asset protection, to protect your assets. Secondly is for the tax benefits through the donations tax exemptions that you have, that you can annually donate money or funds to your family trust. And thirdly is for estate planning as well. You don't want to have any assets in your own name. The ideal place to be as an individual is to own no assets and to have as little debt as possible in your own name. Your holdings trust and your property company then serves the very important function of building your property portfolio, of creating wealth. A question that I'm asked very frequently is, what about my primary residence, the property that I live in? Surely I should have my primary residence in my own name. And the answer is no, absolutely not. And the reason for that is because when you own a property in your own name, that's debt exposure on your name, and also that's asset exposure on your name. That means that if something had to happen to you financially, you could lose that asset, the most important property for many people, their home. And secondly, as I said, when you have that debt on your name, it can limit you in building your property portfolio and acquiring investment properties, even within your structures. And the reason for that is because you would often sign surety for your property entities to acquire property. So my advice is to put your primary residence in your family trust if you are going to pay it off and it's a property that you would want to stay in long term, or alternatively, maybe it's a property that you are planning to stay in for a couple of years and then rent out. Then it is actually an investment property, right? The only difference here is that you are the tenant of that property and that you are going to rent from your property company like any other tenant would. So in that case, you would then put that property within your property company and you would just pay rent to your property company like any other tenant would. So when it comes to structuring, make sure that you build your property portfolio within the right structure, with your holdings trust in place, with your property companies in place, and with your family trust in place. Thank you very much. If you would like to receive more of this kind of content, remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.